Hello, everyone. Welcome to this evening's webinar. My name is Will Harmon, Head of Coach Education or Head of Coach Development for Ladies Gaelic Football. And I'm joined by a special guest tonight, Sarah Dorn. Sarah, do you want to say hello and give a small bit of background to yourself?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Armagh woman. I've worked in sports development for the last 10 years, did about 5 years in the JA as a GPO, and I just went back to uni last year to Ulster Uni to do a master's in sports coaching and performance. And I did a bit of independent research while I was there on kicking techniques and the LGFA, and so I suppose that's why I'm here tonight and Will has roped me in. So we'll
Exactly.
see what we
So the
yeah,
success
see
of
how
the
it goes.
webinar tonight is down to you, Sarah. The success of the webinar is down to you. Anyway, welcome
Not a problem.
everyone. Tonight's topic is mastering the kicking technique in ladies Gaelic football. So we're really looking forward to this one, and we're really looking forward to hear your feedback as well on this webinar. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So what are we trying to achieve tonight? Hopefully by the end of the night, we're hoping that you'll be, more familiar with the research around kicking in our sport. And that's why we've Sarah here tonight, who've done a really good research in this area as well. So add real value to what we're trying to achieve. Look at the mechanics of kicking, not in too much detail, but just give you kind of an understanding of it. Look at the key teaching points around the various kicking techniques, and there's more than one in ladies Gaelic football. But also we're going to show you a few videos of, what can you do in your sessions to help promote and develop, I suppose, the kick in ladies football. There's nothing major or extravagant. They're very simple in their thought process, but hopefully they might be something that might help you out in your sessions. So I suppose, Sarah, it's amazing
Mhm.
actually when I was talking to you, and I was thinking technique skill. I'm going technique skill, but when I saw this, when you said this onto me, it's very interesting that technique is more about the technical aspects, which are the key teaching points. But when you speak of skill, you speak of the ability to make the right decision under pressure. I suppose the ability to execute the right technique under pressure. Sarah, do you want to just elaborate a small bit more on
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. So basically, your technique is if you're able to stand, in front of the wall and ping the ball time after time after time with no pressure on you. That's technique. That's the head, hands, feet. That's understanding what your head, your hands, and your feet are doing in order to kick that ball. But skill is something different. Skill is the ability to select and execute effectively that technique while you're under pressure. And I would even go as far as saying it's about selecting the right technique for the right scenario as well, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later as well. So when are you using the punt, when are you using the inside of the boot, the outside of the boot, the hook. But the pressure is a big part of it as well. If you can't execute it under pressure, it's not actually a developed skill yet. And that's when you need to move on from like your linear drills to your small sided games in order to develop that skill, which I'm sure we'll touch on as well. But that's kind of the difference
Yeah,
between what is a technique and what is a skill. A lot of us will
cool.
have techniques, but we won't be able to actually execute it under pressure. Therefore, it's not a skill.
And the research coming up, everyone, it's very interesting. Sarah speaks about developing or I suppose executing the skill under pressure, making the right decisions. But let's see what the research says, which is interesting. We'll just give it a bit of context before we go into the other stuff. But let's get a bit of context about what we're trying to do. So thanks, yeah, Sarah. That's interesting. Sarah. So let's look at the research and see what it says. So Sarah, tell me, just give everyone an idea of who you were researching or who do you look at regarding specifically kicking in the game. You
Yep.
you dealt with, was it, am I right, 9 intercounty teams?
That's it, yeah. Not nine inch teams. It was nine All Ireland finals.
All Ireland
And they were
finals. Apologies.
from they were from the senior grade, so only senior All Ireland finals. And what I mean by that is not senior in terms of age, but obviously the junior inter senior grading. So basically, what you're looking at there is the top 30 to 40 players per year, basically competing in the All Ireland final. For example, we know that's not exact, but it's a rough estimate. So what I did is I looked at 3 games from the 2000 to 2009. So the noughties, three from 2010 to 2019, so the teens, and then three from this decade as well, from 2020. And basically, I broke down. I analysed every single kick in every single game.
I'm
So
sure you were excited about that. Look at all these clips.
oh man, it was a long process. But basically, I broke down every single kick by scenario, and then what technique was used in that scenario. So, um, was it just an in-play pass? Was it a dead ball pass, so like a sideline, a kick out, or just an unscoreable free? Was it in-play shooting? Was it a scoreable free? And then also looked a little bit at ground striking as well. So like your 45s, your penalties, and those that opted to take frees from the ground as well. And then after that, I also interviewed 5 development officers from Gaelic Games who had a combined over 70 years experience working professionally with, I think this was the key, they work both with players and coaches from both the GAA and the LGFA. So you weren't just looking at somebody who is always working in the LGFA with girls and with coaches of girls, or just working in the GAA with coaches of boys. They had that great knowledge and experience of working with both and seeing and understanding what the differences may be. So
that's getting a nice perspective of the whole thing. Really, that's a good angle, good stuff. So, wow, look at this. I was interested, and everyone, this is interesting. I look at the pie charts, and visually, some is very about the evolution of the kicking ladies football. And I suppose if you look back in the 2000s, it was the punt kick was the main one, was the key one for ladies football. But look at recently, it's very interesting to see how the hook kick is starting to come into our game, the inside step. And don't worry, everyone, we'll show you that in a few minutes. Okay, what we mean by the instep or kicking with the inside of the boot. But geez, look at the evolution of it. It's very interesting how other kicks are starting to come into play now, aren't they, Sarah?
Yeah, like you can see there is over 50% of kicking, and that's overall kicking in the thousands was punt kicking.
Yeah.
And then to now it's roughly a third for punt, hook and inside of the boot, and a little tiny slither of the outside of the boot. But yeah, very interesting to see that development. The idea behind it was that the punt is way too prominent, in women's football, and we need to develop the other skills. So it's good to see that the inside of the boot and the hook marginally developing within, that sort of 30-year period. But it gets even more interesting when you kind of break it down into the different scenarios as to when they're being used and that. So
exactly. So that's just another visual, everyone, just to show you how the punt kick is probably not as prevalent as it was, say, 20 years ago. And you can just see the increase there from a punt and hook point of view. But I suppose when you break it down to scenarios, so using from a shot perspective, what do you mean by, I suppose that's going for a score, really, Sarah, I presume. What are so can you explain this to everyone?
Yeah, this was any shot on goal. So goal or point shots, wides, the whole shebang. Just basically, if you were taking an attempt on goal, it was tagged as an attempted shot. What's interesting there is, like, you can see straight away that hook straight away was a lot more generally used, even way back in the noughties. Way back, shouldn't said that, sorry, but in the noughties, it was generally more used. But this is actually quite, understandable, because probably your players with a higher starting skill set were kind of pushed into the forwards anyway. And we're able to use that sort of skill set anyway. But we do see a little bit of a decrease, as you can see there, into the 2010s before it kind of takes off again. And correspond to that, you can see the green line there of the inside about how it actually rises during the 10s and then comes back down in the 20s. So sort of thought that was to do with more players becoming more comfortable getting into the position of using the hook kick, the inside of the boot, before then progressing on to developing the hook kick. Because to me, the hook kick is a little bit of a halfway house between the punt and the hook. So that sort of showed to me that they were developing that kicking style before then fully progressing on to the hook kick.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you say, score, but from a free perspective. So that was kind of in general play going for a score, but then from a, I suppose, free perspective, what's the difference here? What are we seeing?
So yeah, just from place balls that are scoreable. So again, you see big shot and increase with the hook kicking, and then it sort of decreases oddly in the 20s. Now, there could be a number of reasons for that. One is obviously we only have from 2020 to 2023 to look at games. So there's a smaller pool there of games that you can be looking from. Mm-hmm. But what was noticeable was how some free takers in the 2020s, they may have lined themselves up to take a hook kick, so i.e. the shoulder was pointing to the target. But what they actually did was straighten themselves up. Yes. So they kind of came around the corner. Instead of kicking around the corner, they kind of walked themselves around the corner and ended up facing the target. And then they either punt or inside of the boot, depending on what part of the foot the ball come off. So that was kind of an interesting thing to see in the 2020s, to see that sort of dipping back down. But it was something that I've seen commonly throughout the 30 years, that kind of, when people were trying to develop the hook kick, they started with the shoulder pointing and then walk themselves around and
and actually, we're going to show a video later on, Sarah. You'll actually see that everyone will show you an activity you can do in your session. But where the girls who are working off their non-dominant side, they weren't so used to working off the non-dominant side, I was looking to probably develop the hook kick, but actually it ended up with an instep, or even ended up as a punt kick in the end of it, because they were shaping their body up to kick it straight when they weren't used of working out the non-dominant side. And we'll show you that later on. So an observation, actually, I saw it myself recently. So yeah, we will show that later on and we'll see what people think. Other interesting points, Jesus, kicking is decreasing late football, Sarah. I thought that was a big one.
Massively. Yeah. So obviously decreasing massively in the men's game. And the research does show that, as you can see there in that second bullet point, it's decreasing both in the GA and the LGFA. And my research showed that as well. So from the 2000s, you had an average of 233 kicks on average per game. So there's some games that have more than that. But by the 2020s, it was down to an average of 181. So again, there were some games that had less than that. So it is because of our development tactics. Mm-hmm. It may possibly be due to increase in kick and distance, which is why there are more kicks in the women's game to begin with than the men's game. Maybe kicking shorter kick and distance, so we're increasing that. So we are seeing a decrease in it. However, the importance on the remaining kicks are getting, that importance is getting so much higher. And I think the prevalence on those kicks are only going to become more and more prominent in terms of how we're executing them and how good we are at them. So.
But I would say, advocate everyone here, please, let's, it was interesting. I was doing a session there recently, Sarah, with a group of underage girls, and I did a kicking technique with them. And I'll show you the game I was actually doing later on to everyone. And they struggled big time to, because I don't know, was it to do loads of hand passing? I didn't know these girls from Adam. I just met them. They were doing a session with us, but I did, but when I got them to do kicking under pressure or in a game situation, they really struggled. And I was just wondering, what are they doing in their sessions? Is it all hand passing drills? Is it all small size stuff? So I suppose everyone, that one thing I would say is please practice kicking on a regular basis. In my opinion, that's just my opinion, I think it actually tactically can really enhance what you're doing. And I think it actually could lead to a better outcomes. But yeah, I think it's just interesting to see it decreasing. So as coaches, everyone tonight, please keep it in the forefront. Kicking is important, and let's keep it in the forefront in our training. Just before I move it on, goalkeepers, just on that point on goalkeepers there, Sarah, and you can read the stats there, guys, in your own times. But Sarah, goalkeepers, you mentioned here that they accounted for a lot more variance in their kicking.
Yeah, you could definitely see the development of the skills coming into the goalkeepers sooner than the rest of the players in the team. And that comes back to my point about how important the remaining kicks are becoming. So if you think about the importance of kickouts and in that dead ball scenario, with our increasing tactics, the goalkeepers have to have a better range of kicking techniques based on where they're looking to play the ball. And you could see them developing the kicking techniques much sooner than the rest of the players, which was really interesting.
Yeah, and everyone, we have a level 2 patterns of play, where we look at patterns of play and kicking. Obviously, we do goal kicking. We have a in-game coaching workshop, which is how to, I suppose, do a set play. And goalkeepers, really, kicking is very important. And all these patterns of play, kicking is important. So, it's just something that I suppose we're just showing context. We're just giving a bit of context, everyone, of the research, what the research is saying. It's just kind of heightening our awareness around this key element and this key area. Interesting enough, though, Sarah, we actually did our own research with our player development program under 17 2 years ago, and we covered 10 games over I think it was about 200 minutes of football. And what we noticed was where teams were surrendering possession, the biggest one was from kick pass, 47%, which is very in line with your research. 47% was for kicking. Was the biggest turnovers in our games. What was more even surprising was 46 of the percent of that time, it was because of technical execution. So, maybe their technique wasn't really well. They weren't following through. They didn't get the distance. They didn't get the accuracy. But more so, their decision-making on the ball wasn't where it should be. 40% of the time, it was because of poor decision-making. And which is actually very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it came from a dead ball scenario. So we get a free.
Yep.
And we give it away. And what we noticed was a lot of girls were rushing their kicks. So when they got the ball, it seemed like, I just want to get rid of it. I just want to get rid of the ball. And they kicked it too quick and they just made the wrong decision, or they gave the ball to a player that was marked, or who was being tracked. So everyone, this is very interesting. This is LGFA research. This is under 17s. This is player development program. And it was just very interesting that the research around the kicking. And it probably highlights again, we need to keep on top of this skill to ensure that, we're trying to, I suppose, be the best we can be as our all-around players. But I suppose, Sarah, that's kind of very linked into other research as well, and your research, you observed this, and other researchers observing this as well regarding,
Yeah.
I suppose, that accuracy of kicking and making the right decisions under pressure and the execution of the skill.
Yeah. So as you can see there, like kicking comprises 74% of your general play. There's a reason why it's called football. You know, 3/4 of what we do on the pitch is or should be kicking. You know, so 196 kicks on average per game in women's football, so 11% more than men's, which I kind of touched on earlier. And when it came to research being done in other team invasion sports that involved kicking, so like your AFL, your soccer, all the rest, kicking actually and shot conversion is the most important indicator in winning outcomes. Now it seems very obvious when you say that, but I think it's something we need to remind ourselves of sometimes as coaches, the importance of kicking. We've just been done talking about the reduction of kicking in the game and how much possession can be lost. And that's probably why there's a reduction, because coaches are wanting to retain possession and they don't want to lose possession through the kick. But actually what we need to take from those stats is that we need to work on technical execution because of the 46%. But actually, what stands out to me is the 40% that's from decision making. Do you know? Because I think a lot of time we see a lot of possession being lost by kicking, and then we go back to the linear drills and be like, we need to get this right. But in fact, it's the decision to have kicked the ball into that area, or to have kicked the ball in the first place, or to have used the wrong kicking technique that's actually the problem, that needs to be rectified. So I'm a big proponent of trying to get rid of that 40%. Just as much as the 46% of the loss of the kicking technique.
It's a very good point. And it also comes back to, as well, I suppose, decision making of other players around to
Yeah.
allow for a proper kick pass and a good length and good distance as well.
Yeah.
So it's the research is kind of all saying the same thing, really. Like, I just think what was very interesting to me, and everyone, I'm going to be very honest here, I probably didn't see all these stats till I met with Sarah. We had our own stats from an LGFA perspective. Then I read Sarah's research. Then obviously I was looking at the other research. And it was just interesting to see the similarity and the commonality across the board regarding the kicking. And I suppose really just saying here about the skill execution, but decision making under pressure and the ability to execute the skill under pressure is where we're trying to get at to. So it does have a big role to play, even from a tactical point of view.
Massive. So I came across that study by Dylan that's in the blue box there a couple of years ago, and it talks about, you know, being able to use the left and the right side of the body, and how teams, so this is intercounty men's teams, were actually taking into consideration the inability of the other team to have left and right footed options in terms of what tactics they would use. And I just thought that was so important that teams are actually looking at that in opposition. And then it clicked with me with this study. It was like, well, if we're looking at that to reduce somebody's options in tactics by only having one foot, it's the exact same with your kicking techniques. You should have 4 options off your right foot and 4 options off your left foot to go and kick the ball. And if you don't have that ability, you're just reducing your inability to get out of trouble, if nothing else. But on top of that, maybe make the best of the scenario that you're in by being able to deliver the best possible ball or the best possible shooting opportunity.
Yeah, it was very interesting actually in the PDP. I probably should have put a slide in tonight, but I didn't. But I think it's another webinar that we did, you know, about where the girls ladies football attack, and it seems like a lot of attack down the centre, Sarah. You know, so that was the main channel where a lot of ladies football teams attack when they're attacking sense. But it was always either down the centre or the right side of the pitch. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to this point here, that a lot of players are right-sided, dominant side. Yeah. So therefore, they're either going down the centre, they're going on the right side. And it's just from a tactical point of view, or even from utilising both sides of the field. If you have a player who can kick off both sides of the body naturally, oh my God, now your options are huge. What I also like about this, before I move on, is that, you know, selection and execution of the right technical skills is more important being, as you know, athletic. I won't say it, being fit, shall I say, or being able to run all day. I can't pronounce it. But I suppose it's that, you know, we need players, okay, we might be as fit as fiddles, but if we can't make the right decisions or utilize the right skills at the right time, then does it count for much? Obviously, we need to be able to run and jump and land. But it's just a point I want to make there.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic point that we found there in that study, or the couple of different studies there, that they all came to the same conclusion, that the skills and the skill of selecting the right technique is more important than athleticism. So S&C is great, and it's great to have the fitness profiles that we have now, but it still comes down to the skills at the end of the day when it comes to match outcome.
Exactly. And everyone, if you're anything in the chat function, please share. Guys, in the chat, we'll answer our questions as we go along. But I suppose to be able to execute the skills, you need to be able to, there's three, movement qualities, vitally important. Obviously, to be able to run, jump, land, twist, turn, sprint, change direction. And if you have those two, then obviously you can execute the skills to the best of your ability. So they all play a role 100%, just in case people think that you can't work on doing the other things either. So the types of kicking, ladies football, everyone, there's not just one type. There's punt kick, there's instep inside the boot, there's a hook kick, there's outside the boot, and we've off the ground. And I suppose really, when do we use these skills? So punt kick normally you use it when you're facing a target. So you might see a lot of girls, there's a player directly in front of her. She's looking to kick a ball straight. She'll get that ball directly. Or maybe it's maybe a free kick on the 13 or 20-meter line, dead in front of the goals. Instep, it's when you're in general play. You're trying to find the player who's running at an angle, or maybe you could utilize it for a score as well. So we're just giving you little examples. There's probably loads of others. Hook kick, 9 times out of 10 could be used for that, free, maybe at an angle to a goal, or maybe it could be a situation whereby your shoulders to your teammate and you're getting that ball up the field. But 9 times out of 10 is when you're getting a score, going for a score, whether from a dead ball or maybe from play. Outside the boot, which is not used often enough, but we'll show you a few examples in a minute. Really good ball for switching off play from one side to the other. Really good for maybe kicking against the wind or maybe trying to get a curl on the ball. And we'll show you one or two examples shortly on that as well. And then off the ground, obviously, we probably don't do enough off the ground. But in ladies football, from I suppose under 15 upwards, you're awarded 2 points if you're able to kick the ball off the ground from a 45. So let's practice that a lot more. So what we want to do here is show you there's more than one type of kick, and I suppose the different uses for that. But going back to our point earlier on is, when do we use the right technique at the right time in a game under pressure? That's the key. And how can we get our players to really, really, I suppose, understand that and be able to do that and execute that? So mechanics of kicking. Sarah, in a nutshell, what's this slide say to us?
Yeah, look, you could get into a whole lot of biomechanics of the kicking, but I just thought when I seen that, the full-bodied motion of kicking. So to me, when you look at a lot of club women's footballers kicking the ball, there's two things that you can probably come to mind straight away to you, and that's the little hop of the player that doesn't plant the plant foot.
Yes.
See that quite a lot. And the second thing is a real restriction of the actual kicking action to below the knee. So it's literally just like the foot being flung at the ball from below the knee, but it's actually a full body motion. And it's also, incorporates a lot of action from the hip that's followed down into the knee and then the ankle. And that plays such a crucial role in generating power to the foot and then also to the ball. And then I've highlighted there, as well, the importance of the plant leg mechanics. Yeah. But just as soon as I seen that full body motion, I was like, that's what you don't see. It doesn't seem to come as much of a flow naturally. And it's quite restricted and contained sometimes, that we see a lot in club football. So I just thought it was important to put up there to remind people that we are going to talk about head, hands, feet, obviously. But again, we should really be looking for a really nice flow throughout the whole body, getting behind the ball to maximise our technique.
And it's important to know this, everyone. It's important to understand the context behind all this. It's important to know your why, and therefore then get a better understanding when you're probably develop these. So mechanics of kicking. So the skeletal on the picture on the left, as I look at it, what was the observations here, Sarah?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. So this was a study. It was done in soccer. Obviously, we don't have any studies like this done in Gaelic games. But basically, if you look across the first skeleton there, the A skeleton, that is an untrained male. The B skeleton going across there is a trained male. And then the C skeleton is a trained female. And basically, if you look across those skeletons and you compare, A versus B versus C at different phases of the kick, and if you look first at like the head placement, so in that with head placement, we're probably looking there a little bit more about the upper body torso lean. Whereas it lean? Is it lean forwards or backwards for the untrained male, the trained male, and the trained female? Then look at hands. So in this example, we'll talk about the arms. Where's the arms in each of those phases? And then the feet. So look at the difference in the separation between the feet and the plant foot and the striking foot. And then specifically, if you look at the B skeleton, if you look at the last skeleton before the end, where he's actually up off the ground and the knees following through, just showing the power that's been generated. Now, we don't typically do that, but again, it's just showing the difference in technique compared to the untrained male and the trained male. So hopefully you've had a chance to kind of have a look across those, and hopefully what you've come to realize and see is that the trained female is falling somewhere in between the untrained male and the trained male in terms of the mechanics of the kicking. And really what that's all coming to say is it's not really coming down to anything physiologically different between men and women kicking a ball. It just comes down to exposure. So if you're untrained, whether you're a male or a male or a female, you're gonna have a certain type of mechanic because you're not used to it, you're not exposed. And the more and more exposed you get to practicing, the better you become. And that was actually the outcome found by a study of 23 different pieces of research into male versus female kicking techniques. They found that skill level plays a greater role in the differing mechanics than any type of gender physiology. And that's kind of where my research started. I sort of went down the path of what is the difference, what is the physiological difference that creates the difference in kicking techniques. And the outcome is it's not anything physiological. It all comes down to this idea of exposure. I hope I've explained that.
Yeah, no, you kept it very simple. Obviously, the biomechanical makeup of the female and male body are so different, and but like just exposure. Really, it's just about really let's get practicing. Let's get used to the I suppose to kicking and getting exposure across the female sport, and in our context, ladies football. So mechanics of kicking. What we're looking at really, we're just looking at different phases, and we'll show you a video now in 2 seconds about the approach phase, the back swing, the forward swing, contact phase, and follow through. So these are the phases of kicking. And it kind of that bow and arrow effect, as we speak about there, the more you pull back on the arrow, then obviously the further and the more accurate it's going to go. Whereby if you don't pull back in the bow and arrow, it won't go as far as it wants to go. So that's that approach phase, that back swing, that forward swing, that contact phase, and follow through are important. So we're going to show you a clip here. We kind of go through those phases as we go along. So this is Katie Carey from Antrim. We'll let her just show through here. So here she's doing. So the first thing obviously is our approach phase. So I'm going to pause as we go along. So she's now in her approach phase. Here's her approach phase. That's her, I suppose, her back, her back phase. Then she's going to go into her forward phase. Okay, I'm just going to play it. Oh, sorry, apologies. Just going to play it through, guys. Sorry, apologies. So these phases again, guys. So Sarah, I suppose it's just nice to see it here in action. And I suppose we won't go into the head, hands, feet for now. We'll do that in a few minutes. But really just getting used to those various phases. So the back swing, the forward swing, the contact, and the follow through. So just watch it one more time. It's just nice to see it in action, slow it down. So here we go. She's coming through the approach phase now. Okay, here we go. Now she's going to go to the back swing, which is the back swing of the kicking leg, the forward swing, the contact, and then the follow through. And I suppose it's just nice to see those various phases in action from Katie. And we'll go through those in a few minutes. But everyone, for distance and accuracy, follow through is key. Sometimes people think more power, give it more welly. But no, actually, the more follow through you give, and the better technique you have, the more distance and accuracy you will have. Because sometimes if you put more power into something, what will happen is your upper body will start to shift left and right, and that's where then the ball could skew left or right as well. So just something to be aware of there, the phases of kicking. But we'll go through the head hands in a few minutes. Anything on that, Sarah, before we move it on?
No, I think that was very good. So you could see the level of the backswing and the follow through with the high knee as well, which, if you go back to looking at the trained male skeleton, do you know how high that knee was coming up? And you see that with her at the final stage of this kick as well, which is good.
And it's nice actually, everyone. These videos are very handy to have to show people, okay, when you're trying, I suppose, develop technique. So I suppose, look, in every coach education course you go to, we all hear about the ideal principle. So if no matter how coach you are and what level, you introduce what you're doing. So if you're going to coach a skill, tonight it's we're going to look at the technique of kicking. Then you introduce it. Say we're going to work on kicking, whether with a punt, hook, or whatever it may be. You demonstrate it. You need to explain the head, hands, feet. You need to know what you're looking for. That's key. You let them try it out, and then you give feedback. And I think the difference between a good coach and a really good coach is a coach that they know what they're looking for and be able to give feedback. All our good coaches are out there to do great drills and activities, but are they giving feedback? The great coach will give the feedback, but you need to know what you're looking for. And that's why we're here tonight, and hopefully we can help you with that. So as Sarah said earlier on, it's all about breaking it down to the specifics of head, hands, feet. You know, as a coach, what you're looking for from a head, hands, feet point of view, you're on a real winner. So let's hit the punt kick. Look at it here in the video, okay? Or sorry, in the picture. Her head is down, so keep her eye on the ball. Hands, so she drops the ball with the hand she's kicking with. Vitally important. She steps forward her non-kicking leg. Remember, Sarah spoke about the importance of the non-kicking leg as well. She placed the ball onto her foot. Okay, feet. She hits with the lace parts of her boot. She points the toe forward and she follows through with her opposite hand, using for balance. So I actually think that picture's really nice, Sarah. Kind of shows the technique really well, but look the way she keeps the head down when she's striking the ball. A lot of players will lift their head when they're striking the ball, and what'll happen is the ball might go too high or may go not where they want it to go. So this is very important that you have real confidence around your kicking, in terms of you keep your eye on the ball, drop the ball with the hand you're kicking with, point your toe towards the direction you're going, and hit through with the laces part of your boot and follow through. Sarah, is there anything else on that one?
I think the main thing for me is like it's grand us showing you this and showing you the video in slow mo. When you get out on the pitch, it's all happening in speed. So the main thing for me is take it one at a time. So when you're watching somebody, look at the head. If you're happy with the head, move on to the hands. If you're happy with the hands, move on to the feet. Don't try and look at it all in one go. And in terms of the feedback as well, when you give somebody a bit of feedback, give them a chance to get comfortable with that feedback, and don't be quick to jump with the next bit of feedback as well. Give them a chance to give themselves the pat on the back, and not feel like you're coming at them again with you're still doing this wrong as well, you know. But just separate it out, break it down, and just look at one aspect at a time, because there's a lot going on in a very short space of time, and you just need to look at each aspect individually rather than trying to figure out in one kick what exactly it is.
And I love watching this video. This is an unbelievable goal, but look at the technique. Look at the technique. The head was down, dropped the ball onto her foot, okay, point her toe forward, and she followed through. But look at her, she's off the ground. Oh my God, what a great goal. And that's in our Ireland final. And it's just great to see the skill. But she did that under pressure. So she executed that goal because her technique was absolutely spot on. And look at the confidence in the kick, and she drove it into the net. I just think it's fantastic to see it at real fast motion at the highest point. Here she goes, eyeing the ball. She knows where the goals are. The goals won't move. The last time I checked, goals don't move. So head down, drop the ball, hand, kick with, okay, on the lace part of the boot, and follow through and bang into the, what a goal. What a goal. Okay, here we go. Next one. So the instep, and this is interesting. We'll show you a figure now what the difference. So this is inside the boot kicking. Okay. So the difference here in the teaching points, the head's still the same, eyeing the ball, drop the head. Same with the dropping the ball to the hand that you're kicking with, using the opposite hand for balance. Okay. Same with the standing leg. Okay. And the standing leg is very important. And then we'll just follow through to get a good accuracy. But the difference is we're connecting with the boot at the side of the boot. That's the key, Sarah. That's the key difference here between the punt kick and the instep. Remember, the punt kick is we're hitting towards a target that's straight ahead of us. The instep is more if we're kind of giving it a bit of an angle, or maybe we're just coming at a slight angle to the target. Anything else on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me when coaching the inside of the boot is if you look at the kicker there in the red jersey, her shoulders and hips remain stacked. And what I mean by that is her hips are still under her shoulders and her hips are still facing forward to her target. What you see a lot of the time when you start to introduce the inside of the boot is they'll try and move their whole body to allow for that that movement or that contact with the inside of the boot. But your hips, as you can see here, remain facing the target, remain facing forward with your shoulders. And it's being able to twist your hip so that your knee and toe is pointing outwards. And that's important, that the knee and the toe is both pointing outwards. So that your upper body isn't moving.
So there, here's an example. All Ireland final last year, again, using the instep for a pass. I'm going to show you now in a few seconds, okay, where you could use it from kicking. But here's using the instep for a pass point of view. But again, though, head down, really comfortable, unbelievable vision to see the player on the right. A lot of players would go for a score there, but saw the pass, used the instep under pressure, really good technique, kept the head down, and then obviously the goal scorer did it with an instep as well. But here's in general play, everyone using the
I'll
instep.
just jump in there
Oh,
as well,
sorry, you
actually,
can of
'cause
course, yeah.
that's a really good example. If she had tried to use the punt pass in that scenario, she would have to have completely adjusted her body, which would have took time, and that pass may not no longer been on. So this is exactly the importance of being able to execute the different techniques based on the scenario that you find yourself in.
Yes, that's a very good point. Very good. Excellent point. And here's the other one, Sarah, I suppose. Remember we said earlier about when you use the instep. Here's just showing you what we mean by using the instep. It's when you find a player in open play and you're looking to guide that player to a player that's at an angle or maybe on a run or running to space. And this just, again, shows you that. Okay, so here we are again. As we see it, she opens up her body. She's dropping the ball with the hand she's kicking with. She's using that instep and she's using to kick the ball into space to a player on the run. Again, it's just opening the body really into Sarah, opening the body to allow that to happen. But also it's important that we're not leaning back as well, that we're keeping over the ball as well.
Keeping over the ball and the opening up, like that's the key word there, the opening up of the body. And what that actually does to the right hand side of her body is it just takes her a little bit further away from the defender. The defender in the off lead strip there, it just takes her away from the body of her a little bit more to give her less of a chance of being able to block the ball. Whereas, as opposed to if she had went for a punt kick there.
Very good. We hope these examples are showing what we mean to get an understanding before we move it on to for the other areas. Excellent. But here, I suppose this is a nice visual to show the difference, really, isn't it? So the punt is really on top of the boot, whereby the instep or kicking with the inside of the boot is just, at the side and is showing, I suppose, where it's positioned on the foot here, Sarah.
Yeah, this was a great one I came across. Again, it's from soccer research, and they were using it to show what they were talking about. There is a lot of back and forth, and it came up in my interviews, a lot of back and forth about where the instep actually is. And I think half the country thinks it's one part of the foot and half the country thinks it's another part of the foot. My view on it is I think we just get rid of the instep as a language barrier altogether because people don't know what you mean. It's either the punt kick, which is off the laces, or off the inside of the boot, and there's no animosity there, or there's no misunderstanding there, because there does seem to be a bit of misunderstanding for participants then when they're getting different bits of information. So even if you want to use that graphic, for your players to show them this is where I want you to contact the ball with the inside of the boot, because it can take a little bit of visualization for people to get to understand what you mean.
Yeah, I like that. Punt kick inside the boot. Very simple. Sorry, Sarah, I should have changed the terminology.
No, absolutely.
I'm only messing. I'm only messing. Right, okay, so the hook kick here, obviously we've Katrina here showcasing it. Very simplistic, but this time what's the difference is 9 times out of 10, you have that shoulder to the target, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the hand. One hand dropping the ball onto the kicking leg, the other hand for balance, keeping your eye on the ball at all times. This is the key. Keep your eye on the ball at all times. Very important. And here, I suppose, is the non-kicking leg, again, is just giving you that stability. And then when you're kicking with the inside the boot, okay, you're pointing your toes up this time and you're following through. So that is the hook kick one. Sarah, is there anything you want to add there?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat, which I'll come to in a wee second as well. Yeah. But as you can see there with the feet kicking with the inside of the boot, this is why I said the inside of the boot is like a halfway house between the punt and the hook. So you're getting them used to kicking with the inside of the foot before adding in the having to strike across your body and over your shoulder and the upper body involvement in the hook kick. So we had a question there, should we introduce some soccer drills into sections to allow girls to get used to the different parts of their feet? Absolutely. I'm a massive proponent of that. The first thing I do with young kids is stick the ball on the ground and get them to dribble the ball around left foot, right foot, inside of the boot, outside of the boot, off the laces, and just get them as much exposure and as much time and freedom to experiment with all parts of their feet. So it just becomes so much easier when the ball comes up into the hand. And you might be thinking, right, that's fine for young ones, but I'm taking 14s or whatever. It's the exact same thing. If I was taking a 14s team tomorrow, in fact, if I was taking minor team or senior team, I'd stick the ball on the ground and get them passing the ball with the inside of the boot back and forth. With the likes of a senior team, like it could be your 1 minute recovery from your runs, from your athletic development section. In pairs, stick the ball on the ground, pass it back and forth. Doesn't have to be a big part of your session, but that exposure over time will bear fruit. So.
Oh, 100%. Sarah, I did a session 2 weeks ago with Cedar Min. True story, everyone. And we practiced on the soccer style. So soccer style, kick the ball with the outside the boot. Soccer style inside the boot. Soccer style with the front. So yeah, And we actually did with those girls I was talking about a few weeks ago as well in the hall. We did along the ground as a warm up. Let's go. Let's do back, whatever. Just practicing, getting used to the foot and the ball. So I
Yep.
would be 100% of that. I'm just showing you clips here, lads. All Ireland final day, 2 unbelievable hook kicks used to get a score. Again, what we're observing is a shoulder to the target. Okay, that keeping that eye on the ball, drop the hand, you're kicking it, and the follow through though. The follow through is really good at this level. Really good technique and really really good scores. Again, I'll just show you here. Again, look at that eye on the ball, opposite hand for balance, but look at the follow through. Excellent follow through, and then for the bar. Okay, outside the boot. I suppose the research shows it's not being used much. We're going to show you 2 players in a minute that, oh my God, like I actually don't know how these scores aren't replayed over and over again. But the outside
That was
the boot.
actually exactly my thought when I seen the one that you're going to show. I actually, first of all, I was raging at myself that I didn't recall it the same way I recall Maurice Fitzgerald from the sideline, for example.
Yeah. So
this one that you're going to show should be up
exactly.
there with that. It's because it's pure
Unbelievable.
class.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to Katrina. Yeah, the main difference between instep or inside the boot and hook kick. A hook kick is used, okay, is where you're kind of your 90-degree angle to your target, Katrina. Whereby instep is where you're kind of facing the target or you're at an angle. You're kicking at an angle. Where the hook kick is more at a 90-degree angle. So you see a lot from, I suppose, hook kicking, which you're coming off the shoulder in an open play to kick the ball over the bar, running off the shoulder of a player, and you're kicking that where your shoulder's about 90 degrees the angle to the post, and you're kicking over the bar, or it's a free kick. Whereby the insteps where it's used an awful lot in general play, whereby you're more at an angle, not at 90 degrees, but near about 45, where you just open up the body to give that pass to a player. So Katrina, I hope I explained that. And we're going to show more examples in a minute, Katrina, of the difference as well. So just bear with us on that. You'll see them in the videos in a few minutes. Okay,
we just have another question here.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's just in the nursery grade, is it best to focus on the punt pass initially? Should we aim for relative proficiency before introducing another technique? My answer to that would be no. If it was me, the ball is on the ground. It is being kicked with the inside of the boot. It's being dribbled with the inside, the outside, the punt, because it is about the exposure to exploring with all parts of the foot. The younger you do that, the easier everything becomes. And in fact, when it comes to introducing the kick, if you think about the punt kick, if you think about the width of your foot, if you're punt kicking the ball, the width of your foot against that ball in the centre, there's a lot can go wrong there, left and right. If you're kicking with the inside of the boot, you have a much greater contact patch with the ball, left to right, which means your directionality is going to come easier. And that's a quicker and easier win for those kids to help them develop. So no, I wouldn't say focus on the punt and one technique first, because I was saying this in coach education the other night with a group, and there was kind of a oh yeah moment once I said it. Our kids today, when they start playing at 4 years old or in the nursery at 4 years old, by the time they are 24 and a permanent fixture on their senior squad, they have 20 years of football in them. You know, that's very different to when me and you started playing football. Well, you know, but that's a long. But basically, my point is, you have a long time to get these skills and these techniques into players. So don't be worried about focusing on just one and nailing it, and then 20 years down the line we'll start focusing on another one. Yeah, it needs to be a gradual lift of all exactly. The skills at the same time.
I think so, Sarah, and just expose them to it. And they won't get perfectly exposed. The more exposure they get when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they get better and they get more used to it. And so don't look for perfection. Just expose them to it. The outside the boot, really. So the only difference here, the technique is, but this is where we're kicking more across the body. You're kicking more across the body to get that angled pass. And we'll show an example of it in a few minutes. So the key difference here, the same technique applies. Eye on the ball, drop the ball to hand you're kicking with, but you're more kicking across the body with the outside of the boot, more for that kind of getting that a diagonal kick. And that's really the main difference between the outside the boot and I suppose the punt and inside the boot, is that it's the outside, but the difference is here is you're kicking across the body. I'll show a few clips here, but Sarah, do you want to come in there on anything on that?
Yeah, I suppose the only coaching cue I add to that that helps sometimes with people is that you're kicking across the body, but you're also kicking across the ball. So you almost start at the outside of the ball and bring your foot across the ball, so it ends up on the outside of your foot. Just helps sometimes as a bit of cue wording to give people that visualization of what they're looking to do.
And look at this, outside of 45, everyone, in an All-Ireland final, outside of 45, Cora Staunton outside the boot. Wham. Now, there might have been a bit of a breeze maybe coming from left to right, but what a kick outside the boot. Because she probably thinks she can generate more power, more accuracy, more distance, she probably said the outside the boot, it'll give me this. Because sometimes, with the instep or a hook kick in that scenario, you mightn't get the same distance. She probably felt she had more power and more accuracy from outside the boot because it's right in front of the goals. She probably felt she was able to get an arrow kicked a bit better there. But it's unbelievable kick from outside the 45 with outside the boot. There it is, 2 hands onto one hand, drop the ball, head down, follow through, and straight over the black spot. Unreal.
Yes. The other thing there is as well, like if you try and hook kick from that distance, there's a lot of energy wasted in a hook kick that goes high first and then drops back down. Whereas the outside of the boot, it goes in a bit more of a straight trajectory, which means you get that more distance out of it.
And look at this, Amy Mackin, Armagh, what a score on the run. On the run. Look at that. Great technique. Dropping the ball with the left hand, using the other hand for balance. Look, it's out. Okay. But doing this on the run, under pressure, executing unbelievable technique. But watch the ball the way it curls. I just love this visual to show what the outside boot really does. Okay. And bang. She kicked across it, got the curl in it, and straight over the bar. And I suppose this one really shows, really, oh my God, when it's performed to the highest level, the impact it could have. But look at this one in general play, everyone. Watch how a player used the outside boot to get a diagonal kick into an inside forward. This is, again, Katie Carey back again. Here she is. Watch this. Great vision. Use the outside the boot. Look at the ball. Look where her foot's going across the body. Across the body, follows through, and what a ball. What a ball inside. It took out 3 or 4 Galway players. The ability to kick took out 3 or 4 Galway players outside the boot and into space. But look at how, from a tactical point of view, how it took out a load of players. Sarah, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I just think that's class because we do often talk about hook kicking and outside of the boot from shooting perspective, but it just goes back to your in play decision making, what those kind of kicks can do for you. And as you said, it just split open the defence,
Wow.
and that's what we want to do with our kicking, especially in this more tactical game. That's what we're sort of alluding to at the start. That kicking is going to actually become more prominent in this new tactical game because it's what's going to split any defence.
Yeah. So final one tonight before we go on to show you 1 or 2 little activities is the off the ground. And I suppose the difference here is obviously, your head is eyeing the ball, same thing, eyeing the ball. Hands are extended away from the body for balance and for a balance point of view. But the difference here is the feet. So the non-kicking leg, you're trying to get that boot right beside the ball. So you're trying to plant that right beside the ball. Okay, and look at again here about the approach phase, the back swing, the forward swing, the contact, and the follow through. So look at the back swing here. Really good back swing. Okay, you're looking to get that forward swing, and you're looking to, I suppose, contact that ball and follow through, keeping the head down and over the bar. I suppose, Sarah, off the ground is one we don't do much of because I suppose we can use the kick out off the hands or off the tee even. But, we know now that if you kick a 45 from under 15 up, you get 2 points. So practicing off the ground kicking can huge benefits. Here's an example. Outside the 45, bang over the bar, and that's 2 points on the scoreboard.
Yep, simple and easy 2 points. And again, it just comes down to, as you can see there, quite clearly it is possible for our female players to achieve that. And in fact, the development officers that I interviewed, 4 out of 5 of them had actually seen a 45 being scored in the women's game back in the 2000s. So it's been happening in the game and it's always been possible. But again, it comes down to, I believe, our lack of exposure to it, possibly from taking the ground strike out of the kick out, that we see less of it. It's therefore practice less and girls see it being done less. So that what we can't see can't be.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just kind of dwindled out of the game. So the 2 point has been great to incentivize people back into practicing the ground strike. And I have to say, I am not capable of walking past a ball on the ground without trying to ping it because I just think it is the most enjoyable feeling out there, trying to ping a ball off the ground, whether it's over the bar or to a player. So once you get to understand the technique behind it and you're not just trying to toe poke it, I think it's actually the most enjoyable feeling of a strike you can do with the ball.
Yeah, so with this slide, everyone, exposure. Even think about your coaching at the moment, everyone. How many of those kicking techniques do you practice in your sessions? Punt kick, hook kick, outside the boot, inside the boot, off the ground. How many do you actually practice currently? Even if that's a realization. If you are coaching it, if you want to coach it, all you need to know is head, hands, feet. Have an awareness of what you're looking for. You have now clips to help you get a better understanding of that. But exposure is the key into it, Sarah. And I
Yeah.
thought this was unbelievable, Sarah. Can you just, before we go on to the final debate tonight, about the female coaching and the language we use, can you just explain that a
Yeah.
small bit?
Yeah, so 3 out of 4 of the interviews I asked them for, had you ever seen a good example of coaching practice regarding kicking techniques in women's football? And 3 out of the 4 examples given were of female coaches doing this. So the fourth was Mick Bowen, to be fair, but 3 out of 4 all talked about female coaches. And what they mentioned was the importance of these female coaches in remaining patient. So that meant they didn't just set up a game or a drill activity, and as soon as it got a bit messy because it was something new to the girls, that they didn't go, oh, we'll just can it because this is messy. It doesn't look good. If somebody walked past here, it looks a mess. Just go back to the punt. It's easy. So they remained patient. It was how they broke the skill down effectively. So their communication and explaining the head, hands, feet, and just taking it bit by bit by bit instead of throwing it all in at once. And explaining the why and the when to use each kicking technique was a big one. And this was something we actually discussed beforehand. You were saying that, it's a big thing for you. And it's something that I know a male coach that I worked with previously said to me as well, that girls want to know the why, whereas lads will just do whatever you tell them to. Whereas once you give the buy-in to the girls as to why, so what is the why? It's the examples we've shown you. Why you use this kicking technique? It's the examples we've shown you tonight. So, and even if you don't want to explain it, guys, it's very easy to have one of those clips on your phone. I've done that. I've had images and clips on my phone or on a tablet that I just take down the train and show them the actual image of the why, and then you get the buy-in. But the big thing was around the language used, and what it all came down to then. One of the interviewees said then, ultimately it's down to us. We have to make girls feel comfortable to get into these positions now. And what she's referring to there is the biomechanical positions in terms of opening up the body that we talked about.
Yeah, and everyone, you've got to have the bravery. You've got to practice these skills. They're very important. You've got to have the bravery, but also what I liked about it is that, the understanding why we're doing what we're doing. And hopefully tonight I will help you with that. So we finish off, we'll just go through a few little clips, nothing crazy here, just to show you how you can implement them in a sessions. And maybe these are a few ideas. But look, there's nothing here, lads. I'm telling you now, there's nothing here that's absolutely out of this world stuff. It can be simple. Keep it simple. Just expose players. There's loads of activities you can do, just changing the dynamic by changing the focus of the activity. So we go through them fairly short. Here's one that I use, in a warm-up. So after a warm-up, 2-ball game, we're just kicking off left and right, left and right, left and right. So I might focus on the first kick might be punt kick. The second time we're doing it might be instep or inside the boot. The third time we're doing might be whatever. So we're just using the different kicking styles. So what's your thoughts on that, Sarah?
Yeah, ball familiarization, that's key. It just goes right back to what I said, start even dribbling. Dribbling is where kicking starts, because that is ball familiarization. And it's exploring with the different parts of the feet. So don't be afraid to make it really simple.
So get the ball in hand. Get the ball in hand, even after warm-up. Give them a ball each. If you only got a ball per player, give them a ball. There's just no cones, lads. There's nothing linear here. It's all done really, really simplistic. They're just exploring space, getting used to their distances, and working on the different sides of the kicking. Okay, here's another one. This is more station work. So you could do this as underage, but I've done this with adults as well. So this is what we're doing. I'm just going to show you one or two. The kick pass. So it's a station with a movement quality. And what we're doing here is they're working on the movement quality, but they're also working on the skills. So this one's just showing the punt kick. So I'm just going through it. Okay, the importance of it, but then obviously just working on the punt kick, whereby there's a player at the end and you're working. So they're working, always try and practice skills while players are moving. That's a key point. I think, Sarah, that's important that we try and get players practicing while moving.
Absolutely. If you go back to how we all learned to play football, it was street football, yard football, out in the garden. There was no stopping and kicking the ball. You just experimented. with and failed and tried again, and it was always done on the move. So we have to try and keep to incorporate that in our sessions.
So everyone, what I was doing there was I was doing movement quality with a skill. So here's the hook kick one. So I was doing movement quality, working on movement quality, but bringing the skill into it. Here's the hook kick one, getting the idea of the shoulder to the target. Okay, just getting used to exposing the players. But you'll watch here when you're watching it, some players struggled with it because they were, what you were saying earlier on, Sarah, they wanted to straighten up the body, but a lot of them are doing it not too bad. But some of them wanted to straighten up the body because they weren't used to expose themselves to the hook kick. But even on the non-dominant side is where they really struggled more so than the dominant side. So you see that girl there? That was an instep. That's inside a boot kick. And I went over to talk to her about it, okay? Because she just turned the body slightly. So we're trying to get them exposed to these various kicking techniques. Sorry, no, that's me just I suppose I'm just showing you what I meant. So I had to stop the activity and show them what I was trying to achieve. And as we went along, then obviously go through the ladders. So here you could use movement quality, working on the skills. So you're working the girls, practicing skills in the move. Here we are, trying to get that shoulder, get around the cone, and off we go. Here's another one. This is the instep. So I think it was Katrina earlier on asked me about what is the difference between instep and hook kick. Here's high-speed running, working high-speed running, but using the instep. Here's a nice visual of what the instep looks like. Sarah, I think this is a nice one, really. It really shows it. So they have 5 runs, really out, but they're coming back at pace. But look at the instep. So it's at an angle, because you remember I said they're at a slight angle to kick the ball over the bar, where the hook kick is at they're in a 90-degree angle to the target. So this will show you what the instep or inside the boot looks like. Very simple activity. You're exposing them to your high-speed running or your fitness work, but also you're working on your skills. Absolutely. I hope that's working there, Sarah, on your side.
It is, yeah. It's running perfectly, yep.
So these are just, lads, there's nothing here that's unbelievably difficult or I suppose, life-changing, but it's just absolutely just showing you how we can practice these various skills. Here's another one, the 3-player weave. But we're finishing with an instep or a kicking over the bar. So again, we're working on moving that ball, but let's finish with a good kick using the instep over the bar. So we're working on getting that angle, a small angle to the target, setting our bodies up, composing ourselves, and getting the score using the inside of the boot. But with all these activities we're showing you guys, you could change up there when they come to the end of it, they do a hook kick. They do a hook kick, or they might do a punt kick, or they might do outside the boot kick. All these activities can be changed and modified to suit what you're trying to achieve and what your focus is. Here's this one. This is the one I want to show you. This is the one where we work on the hook kick. Remember what I said? Hook kicks were the 90-degree angle to the target. The girls on the left of my screen are all right-footed. They do the hook kick. They're not too bad. But the girls on the left are not, the majority are right-legged. So they struggled on the left side. So what happened was they started turning their body towards the goals and finished with a punt kick or inside the boot. And Sarah, this really shows what you were speaking about earlier on.
Yep.
So here it is. Watch the girls on the right of the screen. They're turning the body in, but the girls on the left are a bit better on the hook because they're right-legged. So it's more natural to them. Look, it's a bit more natural. It's not 100% great hook kicks, but they're getting used to it. They're still turning their body slightly. But the girls on the right of the screen are really turning the body. They're actually finishing with punt kicks, and they're instep. But let them at it. Let them expose themselves to it every day, every session, and eventually they will come around to it. So I just thought that was interesting to observe that, Sarah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it does just come down to the more and more they're put into those positions, the more and more their right leg will get comfortable at being the plant leg, and their left leg will get more comfortable at being the motion leg, and the hip getting more comfortable with the flexibility and the movement that's required in it. It just takes time, and it just takes exposure. And we just have to keep letting them experiment and fail and try again.
But the difference here, everyone is a ball. No one's waiting around. Everyone's a ball. Go at your own time. Get 100 kicks in. Come on, let's get 100 kicks in, and let's kick and let's kick and let's kick. Very simple activity, but give everyone a ball to really keep this in flow. Yes, Kevin, on the LGFA ladies website. Yes, there's a breakdown of all the skills of the game, but also a video with them. Okay, so they're all there. They're all available. Okay, so we didn't have them tonight, but they're all available as well. So we say about small-sided games. So the last few slides here shows, okay, this is called a two-ball game. So there's two teams, and I always keep it to small-sided games, 5v5, 6v6. Keep it small-sided. Give one team two balls. They try and keep possession with two balls. Now, what's very interesting here, they'll struggle with it, because when I kick a ball, I'll follow the ball. And I don't even look to see where the other ball is for space. But watch it here, guys. But it's working on kicking. So just pass and move, pass and move. The other team are trying to get the ball off us. And what I do in this one is I give the two balls for a minute. Right, team in red, you have the two balls for a minute. How many kick passes can you get in 1 minute? But they have two balls in play. It really works on executing of the skill, but also decision making. So I'm giving a ball and I'm going looking for the other ball. So working on space, really good game. Very difficult. They will find it difficult to start because they're so used to following the ball. But this is really working on spatial awareness, movement, and use a big area. Okay, so a big area around maybe 40 by 40, 50 by 50. What do you think of that game, Sarah? Have you ever played that one?
Yeah, I really like that because it's even just the addition of like visual pressure going from like a
Yes.
linear drill that now they're having to execute the skill with a whole lot of visual pressure around them. They might not have somebody physically on them, but they're having to look up and try and find a teammate in that kind of controlled chaos kind
Yeah.
of environment. And that is where the skill is being developed. And that is how it's actually going to be used in a game. So I really like that one now.
Yeah, and a lot of people does it with one ball. I do it with two balls, and maybe if I have a
Yeah.
bigger group, I put three balls in to really challenge them. Oh, it's tough because if I give the ball to you, Sarah, I have to go somewhere else. And a little point I bring in is you can't get the ball from the person you receive from, so you have to go and get the other ball. So it's really, really good. I love that one. Here's four corners. So you've the red team are in four corners now. Big space here, 60 by 40. You have the blue team versus the green. But in order to score, you must kick the ball into one of the corners. But you need to have that space to allow them kick. So here we are, they're struggling, they're kicking, they're under pressure, let errors happen, but really you're trying to get that kick into space. So here you see a real good kick to the far corner to the girl in red. So it's called the four corners game. Have one team, this is 4v4, so I have four in each corner, one of the red team, of the other team in each corner. I have the blues versus the green, and I give them 1 minute. How many scores can you get in 1 minute? Okay, and then we rotate around. So small-sided games, working on kicking in large areas really works in terms of the development of the technique. I think, Sarah, small-sided games is the way to go.
It is, yeah, because you just don't get the decision making factor without the small sided games. You don't get it in decision making. Brains switch off in linear drills, and when brains switch off, you're also not focusing on the head, hands, feet of what you're executing. So
Yeah.
what actually happens a lot of time in linear drills is people think we have to continue with them because the pass and quality reduces over time, but it's just that people are switching off because they're not having to use their brain. So really try and limit the linear drills to just a couple of minutes of focusing on the skill, and then get it into a small sided game where their brains are switched back on.
Yeah, lads, everyone, a big area, I would go 60 by 40. It all depends on the stage of development of your players, everyone. I do this with under 11s. Where I don't think I've done a linear drill in years, but like I would do so it all depends. I think a good question there about what size. The size of the area depends on the stage of development of your players. But I would say 60 by 40, big area, and let's get them moving. So let's use a good area there because we want to promote kicking. So you need to give them the distance and that area to kick it. If it's too tight, then it won't. There'll be a lot of hand passing going on. You want them kicking, so expose them to kicking by making sure that area is large. Okay, another one here. Again, we're just using the central goal. Again, with all these, everyone, you can change the focus base. But in this game, the central goal game, many kicks can be used here. You might say, right, if you use the end step, I'll give you, 2 points. If you use the punt kick, I'll give you 1 point. If you use the outside the boot, I'll give you 5 points. So you're really getting them just to look at different, I suppose, getting them exposed to different ways of kicking. But here's a central goal game. Very simple. Now, you see the movement here can be a lot better, but this is the first time these girls trying. So you're using center goal. They can't go inside the arc when they're kicking it, but look, they're moving the ball around. They're looking for that space so they can kick the ball over the bar. Here you'll see the instep being used, or the inside the boot. Here you'll see the hook kick being used. Okay, so you're just getting girls moving around into space. You're getting them used to that. And after a while, you'll see the movement here improve, but you've got to get them exposed to it and just let them at it. Let them play and you'll see the various techniques happening. So here we go. Central goal game. Someone use a punt. That's the punt kick there. Another girl used the inside the boot. Okay. The 3x3 game, Sarah.
Yeah, apologies, I don't have a video of it, guys. But basically, this is a small-sided game that I've actually used with senior teams. It doesn't have to be 3v3, but obviously, the smaller you keep the number, the more touches and exposure everyone gets. So if I made that a 6v6, it's one ball between 12, and now all of a sudden there's only one person getting the chance to kick every now and again. Among 12 instead of one among 6, if that makes sense. So basically, this is just like a game of end zone that I set up. So you've got 3 of the like pyramid cones in one end zone and 3 of the pyramid cones in another end zone. You're not allowed to enter the end zones, but each team is attacking one side and the other attacking the other side. Basically, the idea behind this is once you approach the end line, you're trying to kick the ball with the inside of the bush, out of your hands, but along the ground to try and knock over one of the cones. And as you see, the central cone is closer to line just to basically if a team gets through the middle, you know, it's easier for them. Whereas if you defensively push them wide out in the wings, they have a little bit longer to try and shoot. But even with a senior team, guys, this was a hard, intense drill, 3v3. So the work was being done, the intense rate was up. But those little moments of while they were sitting watching the ball dribble along the ground to see if it would knock over the cone, it actually had a great bit of crack in it, which I thought was really nice as part of a senior drill. Sometimes it's really nice to have that. But it really incentivized them to use the inside of the boot. Now, why was I looking them to do this out of the hands along the ground? Well, it's my whole ideology over placement over power when it comes to goal kicking. So instead of actually trying to leather the ball, which normally results in the ball going straight at the keeper and stinging the life out of our hands, we want to look to play the ball in near the corner into the post. And a lot of times that's a lot easier to do with the inside of the boot. So placement over power. So it was also just trying to expose the girls to using the inside of the boot, because again, senior team, a lot of them are saying, can't do this, never done this in my life, can't do this. But as soon as you incentivize them to do them in a fun game like this, they were doing it straight away.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any of them that didn't do it at any stage of the game. And again, just keeping it 3v3 just increased their exposure to being the one that was on the end of the ball taking the shot. But it was a really fun game. It's a game that was highly intense and got them into a game and using this kick straight away, which I don't think people think they can do. They think they have to go straight into a linear drill. I didn't do a linear drill with the inside of the boot before doing this with the team.
And you could have even been fun. Okay, can you kick with the outside of the boot? Can you go a punt kick? There's
Absolutely.
so many. Yeah, but I like the way it's
Absolutely.
small sided. It keeps the power up and it keeps it going. So, like, I suppose the other stick one here, I'm going to let this run. This is a hook kick one. So this is a skills challenge. So I'm going to let it run here. I think it goes about 20 seconds. It comes on. So basically, you just put out cones and you get them to go out of cone and hook you over the bar over left and right leg. So here's an example from our Get It for Teens program. Here's one of our intercounty players who, trying it out. And she's laughing because she's obviously right-legged, so she found it difficult on the left side. But, here we go, left and right, just working, just exposing that. And she's, again, after non-dominant side, just slightly coming into that angle, probably, and look, very more an instep. But these are little challenges you could do. You could set these up before warm-up, guys, or even before, as girls come in, they could be practicing their kick and kicking techniques. So here, a very simple one, as I said, guys. Lay out cones, out you go with the ball, drops ball to the left hand, hook kick with the left leg over the bar, go get another ball. Can you complete the grid and how fast can you do it and how many you can get over the bar? Again, you're exposing them. And this is a fun activity, a skills challenge that you can do, a bit of fun. So all these are available, everyone, in your own time when you want to give a look at them, okay? These will be on our social media pages as well, all these skills challenges. Final one tonight, if you're a goalkeeper, practicing the kick out, just put out various boxes and just get them kicking into the box. It could be a pin kick, could be using the inside of the boot. So you can have different points on different boxes, different distances. You can call a box, then you can come up to the 20-meter line and got to find a box or maybe find a player in a box. Again, you're exposing players to different, I suppose, uses of the boot. It might be you got to use the outside of the boot to kick from your right side to the left side. You might have to use a punt kick if it's directly in front of you. You might have to use the instep or the inside the boot if you're going to slightly at the angle. So it's just getting used to all these kicks. But all these activities are simplistic in nature. and anybody can develop them. You just have to be imaginative in your training and your coaching, and it'll all work out. So well, we hope they helped you, and we hope you enjoyed tonight. But if you want to know more about kicking, we actually have practical workshops coming up in Connacht, North Leinster, South Leinster, and Ulster. We just finished the one in Munster. They're all available on our social media pages. They're all available on our website, everyone. You can register by just clicking on the tab, and you can register for all these up and coming Perfecting the Kick. So basically what we have said tonight and what we've taught you tonight, we'll actually be doing it practically in up and coming new workshops. These are Perfecting the Kick, and it'll all go through the concepts we covered tonight in a practical sense. So if you're interested and you're near one of these venues, get onto the Ladies Gaelic website or observe our social media pages and get onto one of these courses and workshops, and we hope you enjoy them over the coming weeks. Our next webinar is on at the end of the month, the 27th of February, look at how to coach the goalkeeper. We hope you're going to look forward to that. All our webinars are recorded. They're all available on our LGFA YouTube channel, so you can watch back this webinar tomorrow, no problem at all. But and you can register for all our webinars again on our social media and on our website. So everyone on the chat function, can you let me know what's one thing you took from tonight? What's the one thing you took from tonight's webinar? And Sarah, I'm going to leave the last word to you in terms of messaging. What do you feel is the one thing you advise you give coaches before we leave this evening?
Yeah. I think there's the big but that we missed in regards to my research, which was it was only done on senior inter-county teams. It is not representative of what's going on in the club game, and that's certainly what all the interviewees agreed. It's not representative of the club, so we do have to continue to do the work to keep developing it. The big thing for me is for people to take away, it is not physical. There is nothing physiological with the female body that is preventing them to getting into these positions to use these kicking techniques. It comes down to exposure, time, freedom, experimentation. They have to be given that the exact same way their male counterparts are given. And if we allow that, they will develop these skills no bother, because there are enough examples out there of your Amy Mackins, your Cora Stauntons, your Valerie McCann, your Emma Duggins, your Louise Maher-Hartigs, so many examples that are doing it so naturally. And yeah, that would be the big takeaway for me.
Keep it. My advice is keep it simple. Be brave. Allow mistakes, and expose people to all our players, these kicks, and have fun with it, and enjoy it, and use activities that are so simple. Don't get complex in the activities. All you need is a ball and space. And kick away, and kick away, and use the small side games we showed you. Have fun things around the skills challenges. Use stations if you have to use stations. There's so many ways you can develop kicking in ladies football, and we hope that you found tonight interesting. So I want to say thank you very much, Sarah, for tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed this evening. I really was insightful in your research, but also your knowledge and I suppose your experience in this area. So thank you very much for sharing that this evening. Really enjoyed your company tonight. And everyone, thank you very much for giving the time to be here this evening. We hope you enjoyed our webinar. All our webinars are recorded. They're all on the LGFA YouTube channel under the Coach Education playlist. Give a look back at them, and we'd always love to hear from your feedback. So please fill out the evaluation form afterwards. On that note, I want to say thank you very much and good night.
Thanks, guys.